Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're joined here tonight in the studio by Mr. Ahmed ELLEISSY Nassef, the writer and economics and state management international consultant. Mr. Nassef, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Nassef, now, I mean, every day, if not by the hour, developments are taking place in Gaza. Still people and world leaders are talking about diplomatic effort trying to permanent humanitarian aid into the Strip. Now, Egypt has really adopted this situation since October 7th, the first days of the conflict, and Egypt gets its own humanitarian aid into the Strip. Also, a lot of the international institutions, all of them getting the aid into the Strip. However, it's almost 70% of all the aid getting into the Strip since October 7th up until now, 70% coming solely from Egypt, including obviously from the Karm Abu Salem, the Rafah border crossing, along with the airdropping by the Egyptian Air Forces, along with the Emirati ones. How would you rate the Egyptian performance at least at the humanitarian level?
Well, to start with, I would actually differ with that number. 70% refers to the ownership of the goods and the support items and the food and what have you that we do actually transport or send to Gaza. So Egypt contributes 70% of that. But what Egypt does contribute 100% of is the logistical management of that. So, you know, some of the other countries do support, and you know, they are 30% we're talking about. But all what they do is they just deliver these products and these items to us. Yeah. And then Egypt gets the onus back to do all the coordination and the logistical support to get these products and items to our brothers and sisters in Gaza. So yes, 70%, if we only talk about the goods, but 100% of the effort. And it's a very, very complex arrangement. The fact is that the other side doesn't really want you to let things across. And that's not secret. I mean, the whole, or might be secret, but the whole world knows about it. That, you know, they're just finding any excuses or any pretexts to, you know, check and double check and recheck to make sure, you know, that to slow the whole process down. And meanwhile, the Gaza inhabitants and the Palestinians are suffering. We could put a lot of labels on that sort of behavior, if you want. None of these labels would be very honorable. Egypt is perseverant. Egypt is resilient. We understood very early that we need to be pragmatic. It's not about cutting a relationship or calling the ambassador. We need to keep the communication channels open to be able to do what we're doing. And I think the Egyptian role is appreciated globally of what we're doing and how we're supporting everything. Yet we're still drawing our red lines. We're still protecting our lands. So we're not being soft. But we're trying to be extremely helpful to the people suffering in humiliating way, all who are contributing to such suffering in the 21st century. So Egypt is playing a pivotal role in what's going on, and I think it's noted and appreciated almost by everybody on the globe.
Yes. Well, it is being appreciated and it's being praised by all world leaders and the international institutions, but still they need to do more I mean, translate this sort of appreciation and praise to matters on the ground. I mean, what is the UN really doing? The UNHCR, UNRWA, all these very prominent institutions. What are they doing to help in? I mean, they should be willing to chip in with more than just 30%, or at least assist in the management, or offer at least the assistance in management and the logistics, or apply some sort of a pressure on the other side of the borders to facilitate the flow of aid.
I think you've touched on the hotspot here, is applying pressure. I'm not a young guy, but in my lifetime, I do not recall that in the recent history, we had not once but twice the Secretary General of the United Nations coming and giving a speech from an Egyptian border. Again, I do not recall in my life seeing 7 or 8 leaders, European leaders, coming to meet an Egyptian president since 1952. I don't think that happened, including the head of the European Union. So I think the message is loud and clear, but at the same time, which is very sad, what is exposing what's going on is exposing the how would we say, the very limited and modest influence on the that an organization has to change things really in the field. Mm-hmm. The UN was started after the Second World War to basically to avoid a Second World War. And over the years, it got controlled by mostly the US. And unfortunately, the US has a lot of politics. And there is a lot of influences that actually, you know, the lobbying and what have you, that actually steers the decision of the US in a certain direction or another. Mm-hmm. And we were all in shock last when we've heard so many times the US president and several very senior politicians declaring and formally stating that they believe in the two-state solution. And when, you know, the moment of truth came and it got put to voting, the US vetoed it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, politics is not a very, how would you say, I don't want to use the word honest, but this is the closest to the meaning. It's a game. And yes, there are influencers and, you know, lots of, we see also the head of the Congress, he's, you know, even internally, I think he's the first Republican head of Congress who is actually very much pro the democratic point of view. So things are shifting, and this is all because of the lobbying and the back doors, and politics is not easy. And unfortunately, it's not about right or wrong. Mm-hmm. It's about who has the power, whether physically, so arms and what have you, and also the political power, and, you know, that he could get things done. Honestly, the only group that I see profiting from what is going on, and these are numbers, my area, are the weapon manufacturers. They are having a blast. They are making profits like they probably never dreamt of. And we wonder if this is just a coincidence, or, you know, there are like some sort of story behind the closed doors, you know, mm-hmm. because what is going on, that they're selling, you know, you hear all these numbers, $60 billion to the Ukraine 2-3 days mm-hmm. ago, 70 here, 10 there. These are actually, where are they going? They're not cash. Mm-hmm. This is money being pumped into the weapon manufacturers who produce weapons, sell it to, theoretically, at least on paper, sell it to the United States government who ships these weapons. So basically, these are incremental sales to these companies. So you wonder how is the process of decision-making is happening. But humanitarianly speaking, it is a very, very sad period for humanity to witness such events.
Well, they actually said, I mean, that the war on Gaza has actually cost over $17 trillion so far, and these numbers were 2 weeks old, if not more. Now, what about the UNRWA, the UNRWA, which is really responsible for the Palestinian refugees in specific? Now, Israel claimed after the death of UN personnel, they said that 12 of the people killed were actually involved in terrorist acts and terrorist organizations and involved in the October 7th attack on Israel. However, they submitted no evidence so far, and there is an investigation that is being led by Catherine Colonna. Now, a lot of countries suspended or wanted to suspend and freeze the aid to UNRWA. How do you think this reflects on the situation on the ground, and what is the future of such an investigation? And even if the investigation resulted in having no clear evidence, would it be then too late for countries to re-pump money into UNRWA?
Well, I'll start with the last part of the question. How do we see this happening? This is moving a very bad situation into a disastrous situation. I don't know if these people were really guilty of what they're accused of or not. But frankly speaking, either ways, you don't throw the baby with the bathwater. Maybe they're guilty. Let's even go in that assumption. Okay. Where did any of the international organization all over the world, all over history, did not have a gap, a security gap, or somebody who was working, you know, double-faced or whatever? I mean, these things, it's part of life. Solution to a problem like that, and that's a big if capital underline, if you manage to prove it for real, is to fix what is broken. But to stop financing the only organization on the planet that is supporting the Palestinians, you literally are trying to starve them to death, to make them, to maximize their suffering in all directions, whether from a nutrition point of view, whether from a medical point of view, whether from even education. And to be honest with you, I'll even go a step further, and I don't really think it's in the interest of Israel to do that. Because if you deprive people from food, from education, from knowing what is right and wrong, and they grow up in that environment, what sort of, you know, mindset are you producing with these people? You're almost, sorry to say, you're almost designing almost a terrorist, okay? You need to treat them with dignity. You need to get them to be supported, so in order not to, for them to be recruited by any of the terrorist organization, because you're making them a very fertile land of a recruiter of any of, you know, the Daeshes and the ISIS of the world. So do we really want to have like 2 million people to grow up? Some of them will pass away. Some of them, no doubt, will die. But you still, even 50%, even 30%, do you want to handle like 500,000 terrorists? Which country would want to handle this? So I think even it's a very emotional sort of decision. It's not even in the interest of Israel, let alone we're not even going to talk about. If you have a problem, you fix your problem. You don't throw the baby with the water bath.
Mr. Nassef, now, the option of having a maritime route, getting aid into the Gaza Strip. Now, some people are welcoming such an option, and also other observers are saying, well, it actually creates some sort of a route for Palestinian place outside the country, suggesting Cyprus is willing to welcome Gazans and Palestinians into their homeland. Now, what community or Egypt as a country really standing firm by the Palestinian cause? Is this a route for humanitarian aid to get into the Strip, or is this Palestinians to be displaced outside of the country?
It's a two-way street, so it will be both. The trick on this one, I don't think it's sustainable. You know, I saw the drawings and I read a little bit about the project. I don't think such a project is sustainable. The solution, you know, the pretext that Israel is using is, you know, we would like another route where we can control what's going on to make sure, you know, we're not hiding bullets and the loaves of bread we send to our brothers and sisters and all that sort of stuff. Well, fine, but how long can you keep that? How long can you keep almost, you know, cutting part of the Mediterranean by creating an artificial sort of bridge or road or whatever you want to call it? That's one. Number two, we've all seen and heard the news and the issues about the illegal immigration that is going to Europe, and how even that it reached a problem caused a major problem between Italy and France, especially that Italy with Lampedusa is in the first place to receive these immigrants. I've been to Cyprus several times, business and on vacation, and I do not imagine that the people there will be in open arms, Palestinians running away from a war. So we're creating another problem with another dimension. We need also to remember that Cyprus is divided into two parts. One of them is the Greek and the other one is the Turkish. That adds even another complication to the issue. I'll be very surprised if it worked, and even if it did, I can see it only working for a very short period of time, but this is definitely not a sustainable solution. The sustainable solution is the simple one, is that the country that has borders with Israel transfers or becomes the logistical supplier of whatever we want to send to Gaza. If they want to have somebody to double check or verify or whatever, I think that route from Cyprus to Gaza is a little bit far-fetched, very creative, a little bit far-fetched. It's going to cost an arm and a leg. And I can imagine something like this to be sustained for more than, I don't know, a few weeks.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Egyptian government and the Ministry of Supply in specific has actually launched a 6th humanitarian aid convoy into Gaza. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back. Egypt's Ministry of Supply